please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
You're with us here on a fresh new edition of MIDCAP Radar. I'm Prashant Nair. With me is my colleague Sumaira. The markets are down about 12 points, which is essentially a good outcome, essentially considering the fact that things were a little bit worse off earlier in the day. But it's been a pretty quiet kind of day, unless, of course, the last hour and a half, 2 hours turn out to be something more dramatic. So far, no sign of anything of that sort. Smooth kind of going at this point in time. I just want to very quickly, that's what I wanted to highlight. The bank index is selling off a little bit and now stalling. I mean, it's not as if it's going down one way. If you remember, we had that dramatic climb down on the bank stocks day before yesterday. Almost, the index itself came off about 3% in the last 2 hours of trade. We didn't have that kind of rally to begin with, but there is some give back which is happening as we speak. Sumaira, afternoon.
Hi, Prashant. Good afternoon to you as well. And, I'd like to see how the European markets open. I'm expecting a mixed opening actually over there because once again, fears of this, trade war escalating is what investors are fearing. Now we have Larry Kudlow, who's been appointed the new chief economic advisor, and he seems to be following the same hardline stance as Trump. So actually Europe opening a tad bit, tepid to positive, just about a 0.25% higher on the CAC. So let's see how things progress.
The top stories, and we'll touch base upon some of those in a bit. 9 points lower, so actually the market is not doing badly at all. 10,401 is where we're at. Ashwani is with us. Ashwani, thanks very much as always. What's your reading of the market, the screen?
See, the market is hiding more than it's displaying. Actually, the mid-caps are not doing badly because you have 1,150 advances to about 479 declines. It's basically 3 or 4 small, large stocks which are kind of misbehaving today. But the banks, after declining midday, they seem to be looking much better. And probably the short covering move that generally happens in the last half hour is probably starting a little early today, and chances are that even those 3 or 4 stocks like Reliance, ICICI, etc. Could recover by the end of the day. So the idea should be to get long on the Bank Nifty because it started its move about 15-20 minutes back, and generally you get follow through once something gets to the highs of the day. But the Nifty is likely to remain choppy. But I think banks could recover by the end of the day, particularly because there is an expiry. Having said that, I think individual stocks, Mindtree is a buy with a stop of 828, target of 850. PSU stocks are doing well, so BEL is a buy with a stop of 149, target of 160. And Balmer Lawrie is a buy with a stop of 229, target of 244.
All right, Ashwani, thanks very much for your afternoon trades. But the big focus actually remains on the tariff war posturing, which seems to continue after Trump appointed Larry Kudlow as its chief economic advisor. Also, the U.S. has challenged multiple trade promotion programs which are being administered by India. So what does this mean in the larger context? We have Lata Venkatesh to explain it for us. Lata.
Well, first up, it's normal for companies to drag each other to the WTO Dispute Settlements Committee. And this is usually to gain some commercial advantage. It's more posturing. The process normally entails both parties, rivals, presenting their arguments over 6 to 9 months. So immediately you shouldn't expect any impact on economy or trade or sectors or markets. It's posturing. And only coming to the point of SEZs, which US seems to be raising, these are very old practices that India has, or institutions that India has, export-oriented units, special export processing zones. And the fact of the matter is that over the last 27 years that they have existed, or 25 years, we have never had a current account surplus. I mean, we have never had a trade surplus. Our exports have never been over our imports. And even with respect to the US, it's only sometimes that we have a surplus, and even that's because of our software exports. So this is going to be very difficult for the US to prove. In fact, the only time we have had a current account balance, not even a surplus, is when crude falls, unrelated to our export growth. So it's going to be a little difficult for the US to prove what it is proving. They tried the same thing to make us look like a currency manipulator, and they could not. They had 3 filters, and India only fulfilled one of the filters. The other point, of course, is that India's currency has, over the last 24 months, actually been appreciating in terms of real effective exchange rates, sometimes overvalued by even over 20%. So I think this is a paper tiger, not to be worried about.
Thank you very much for that. That's important perspective which is coming in on that.
Look at the stock of MCX. So that stock is now sitting with what, a 7.5% in terms of gain. But there's a sharp spike in just the last few minutes adding to it. So sitting at the high point of trade. But back home in India, growth engines got a boost after the January IIP, that's the industrial production numbers, rose higher than what was expected at 7.5%. So we spoke with Baba Kalyani, the CMD of Bharat Forge, to try and get a sense of what's actually happening on the ground, if all of this can be reflected on in terms of demand, volume outlook, etc. And you'll have to hear out Mr. Kalyani, because he's very, very optimistic on demand going ahead. In fact, he's also advocating capex plans.
Most of us who are in the manufacturing business, either connected with infrastructure products or connected with automotive, are seeing a huge bump up in demand, creating the necessity to expand capacities. And I think a big capex cycle is beginning to start, at least in these sectors. For the first time, we are seeing capacities running full up, demand increasing beyond what we had planned for, and therefore a need for a lot of new capacities. If you look at the automotive sector, take medium and heavy trucks, for example, you're seeing almost 20 to 30% growth every quarter compared to last quarter in this business. I think the volumes are going to get significantly higher, and I think for those volumes we definitely have to add capacity. We are now putting up new facilities for enhanced output, and that will overall increase our leverage and bottom line. In India, because of our peculiar circumstances of the business model of running a truck, more and more trucks are coming with 2 axles in the front. So it's almost like supplying to 2 trucks. And that's how the components are increasing at a dramatic pace compared to numbers.
All right, Baba Kalyani there talking about overall capex maybe seeing some green shoots. Well, let's look at Puravankara. That's another stock which I think is looking up 5.25% higher, 150. We had IDFC Securities, which met the management, and the commentary seems to be quite okay. Sonal is here with the highlight. Sonal.
Well, as you rightly pointed out, IDFC met the management and they published quite a bullish note. And what they actually say is that they like the company because it is accelerating the delivery of the completed projects, and they expect to receive around 6,100 crore rupees, which is 148% times of the enterprise value across the launched and completed projects. In terms of operating profit margins, they have been able to deliver around 35% plus margins in the affordable housing segments, which is higher in comparison to its peers. Puravankara also has an aggressive launch pipeline of around 9 million square feet, which it is expecting to deliver in next few quarters. Now it also trades at a discount to its peers, and that's why it's making it all the more attractive. And management also has guided for a strong and robust pipeline, and that's why the stock is up and buzzing trade today.
All right, Sonal, thanks very much for that quick take. Also on our radar today is Mahindra Logistics. Now, Kotak Securities has raised their target to 570 from 545 earlier. So we caught up with the management, Pirojsha Sarkari, the CEO, to try and find out what's happening, what's the outlook for 2019. And he says that the main focus is on warehousing going forward, and they target 50% higher revenue over the next 2 years.
Margin expansion in our business is basically dependent on the service mix that we provide. The more warehousing and value-added services that we provide, our margin expansion will take place, because as you know, in transportation the margins are pretty low. Having said that, like we have declared, in the first 9 months we have grown our warehousing in our non-Mahindra SCM business by 37%, and that's a good start. The GST effect has started kicking in. The focus is very big on warehousing, and as we start operating these large warehouses, as we have already done, the margin expansion should take place. 56% of our revenue comes from the Mahindra business, and that's what we will end at in this year, and we will make sure that in the next 2 years it will become 50%. So if I don't take the Mahindra business, my non-Mahindra business auto space revenue is equal to the other 3 industrial verticals that we operate in. As you know, we operate in consumer and pharma, e-commerce and bulk, and so it is equally divided.
From the time that we started at 130, the market seems to have lost about 10 additional points on the Nifty, 10,387. You can see that sharp, not sharp, but very visible correction there on the intraday. And maybe we could put up the Nifty Bank as well and see if that has also continued its turn down. Not really, but it's also lost from the highs, 24 points lower, 24 points higher only now. Almost now turning into the red. Very little left there on the index. You know, one stock which is surging is Jaiprakash Associates. I mean, the stock will come up on your screen. It's up almost a full 10%. Not long back, I think about 3 or 4 days back, it had corrected to under 14 rupees. It's higher today. Dhirendra Tripathi of moneycontrol.com is now joining in to fill us in with his exclusive story. Remember, the race for Jaiprakash Infra Tech, which is under the insolvency process, is underway. The bidding process is underway. And the list has been whittled down to just a few players. And we understand that one of the players is actually ahead. Dhirendra, thanks for joining in. Why don't you run us through the details?
Yeah, so what we are learning from our sources is that Adani Group has nosed ahead of the 3 other bidders. In fact, now we are told that there are only 3 bidders now, with one of the bidders, that is Cube Highways and Kotak CIG Fund. 2 of them came as a JV. That company is now out. So the race is now left to Adani Group, JSW Group, and Lakshadweep Investments, with Adani Group clearly now the favorite to walk away with the company. Yeah. So what is tilting in favor of Adani Group is the terms that are favorable to both the home buyers and the creditors of the company. Something that was not found in the other offers.
Yeah. No, will there be since there are a few players, I mean, at least officially in there, will there be another round, final bidding, etc. will take place, or this, according to your sources, is a done thing now?
There could be a fresh round. And there was one meeting yesterday that was held where Adani Group emerged as the clear favorite. But there will be a next meeting soon where they could be asked to submit fresh bids.
Okay.
And so, yes. So, what we do not know yet is whether Adani Group will be the preferred bidder finally, or whether the list that will go to the Supreme Court will comprise all the 3 names that are there now.
Okay, okay. Thanks very much, Dhirendra. Appreciate you joining in with those details. I mean, the stock to watch is not JP Infra Tech, but it is Jaiprakash Associates. As soon as this transaction gets done, JP Associates, which is the promoter, will lose control of JP Infra Tech, but it will also be free from any responsibility and liability arising from home builders, etc. That will now be the responsibility of whoever wins. And as Dhirendra pointed out, it looks like Adani is ahead out of the 3 odd names who are in the bidding process. Stocks now 18 rupees plus. Sumera.
Right, Prashant, just look at Reliance as well. You know, that stock is now at the low point of the day. It's about 1.5% down, heavyweight there. Add to it an ITC as well, so that's pretty much at the lows as well. So while it's not down a whole lot, it's just down about 0.5%, but in terms of weightage, it's a heavyweight. And a lot of these banks, Yes Bank, Axis Bank, all of them now sitting at the lows of trade.